Welcome to this tutorial on creating a package design using CorelDRAW Graphics Suite X5. In this tutorial, we'll look at some of the tips, tricks, and tools that can be used during the creation process of a package design. As you may be aware, when creating a successful package design, the sky is the limit. That is to say, there are no boundaries as to the actual design, but creating the design is where we can show off the tools and features of CorelDRAW. When a graphic designer creates a package, they usually do so from a template. The idea is to keep the design process as straightforward and as simple as possible. Here is such an example of a template. The template may use more than one layer. I have turned off the second layer for clarity. In this example, on the first layer, we can see the various die lines. This is used to indicate where the stock will be cut by the red lines, glued as indicated by the green shapes, and finally folding as represented by the blue lines. If I turn the artwork layer back on, you'll get a better picture of how this package is put together. Cutting around the corners, gluing for the bottom and sides, and folding. Let me close this file off. For this project, we're going to create a label for a can of dog food. Doing a label is straightforward, but will allow us to show some of the features and effects that can be used in CorelDRAW X5. After launching CorelDRAW, we're going to need to set the page size. I can either use the interactive property bar, or I can go to the page setup window. An easy way to get there is to double-click on the shadow of the page, but I'll use the interactive property bar. Make sure that you have the units of measure set to inches. I'll enter 9.5 as my width and 3.5 as my height. When creating a package design, there are a couple of rules that should be kept in mind to ensure your design looks professional and conveys the image that you want for your business. Cleaner is better. Having clutter can hide important details to the reader. Look to see how text and images are aligned. Our eyes find aligned text and objects pleasing. This is a very common mistake when designing packaging. Objects may be aligned left or right or centered, as long as it's consistent. Use color. Making use of color will help to draw attention to the viewer, but be careful not to use too much color. This will make your design appear cluttered. Now, let's get back onto our project. We'll start by creating a background for the label. To do this, double-clicking on the rectangle will cause a page frame to be created. From this, we can apply a fill. To fill this rectangle, I'm going to use one of the many texture fills that are found within CorelDRAW X5. By clicking on the Fill Flyout tool and selecting Texture Fill, I have literally thousands of fills at my disposal. There are 7 different libraries, each with no less than 25 base textures, and 10,000 variants of each one. For this, we're going to use Sample 7, and I'll select Concrete. And then I'm going to select texture number 5000. I also want to change the shade to red and the light setting to black. And finally, I'm going to set the brightness to 0 and then click OK. And we can move on. I want to be able to add a full bleed to the label. A full bleed is printing from one edge of the paper to the other without the standard borders. This is useful for printing brochures, posters, and other marketing material. The stock is trimmed after printing to ensure the ink runs fully to the edges, but does not stop short of it. To create a full bleed, I can either hold down the Shift key and drag the bottom center node outwards, or for more precision, in the interactive property bar, I can type a value of 0.25 or 1/4 inch into the vertical size box. You'll notice that I can use mathematical formula in this box. Now hit Enter, and this will resize the height of the rectangle. For the image on the label, I'm going to use one of Daisy, a bulldog puppy. By clicking on File, then Import, I can browse to the file and bring it in. If needed, I can crop the image on Import as well. When I get the import cursor, I'll click to drop the image down. One of the features in CorelDRAW X4 that can be fun to play with is PowerClip. PowerClip allows the user to create a container from a vector object or text and then place an image, whether it be vector or raster, inside the container. Here, I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to draw an ellipse and then place the image of the puppy inside. By selecting the image of the puppy and then going here to the Effects menu, down to PowerClip, and then select Place Inside Container, I will be given a large black arrow that I can use to identify the container to clip the image into. I'm going to hit Escape just to show you an easier way to do it. By clicking on the photo and then right mouse click and drag over to the container, when I release the mouse button, I'll be presented with a menu. Select PowerClip inside. To edit this, I can either go to the Effects menu, PowerClip, and select Edit Contents, or I can right-click and select Edit Contents from the Context menu. But a quicker way is to hold down the Control key and left-click on the image within the container. This allows me to resize the image or manipulate it any way that I want. You can also see the outline of the container that I can use as a reference for the positioning. Once I am finished with the editing and resizing, I'll hold down the Control key and click outside of the container. This will take me out of the edit mode. I'll give the ellipse a white outline and adjust the outline thickness to 4 points. To do this, I can either click on the Outline Pen dialog box, or a quicker way would be to double-click on the Outline Pen color swatch on the status bar. Here I can set the line weight and color. The next step is to add the title. CorelDRAW X4 has the capability of creating 2 different types of text: artistic text and paragraph text. Artistic text is typically used for titles and that sort of thing, where paragraph text has the ability to maintain formatting similar to that of a word processor and is best suited for body text. For the title, we'll use artistic text. I'll type my text and then set the font to Arial Black with a point size of 32 points. And then, by selecting the Envelope tool within the interactive flyout, and apply an envelope to the text. By manipulating these nodes, I have the ability to shape the text any way that I want. And of course, I can also add or delete nodes as required, simply by double-clicking where I want to place a node, or double-clicking on a node, I can remove it. Once I have my text the way I want it, I can change the color. We're going to use Pantone Palette for this. Pantone colors, also referred to as spot colors or PMS for Pantone Matching System, are specific ink colors that when printing separations will print on a separate plate. These are used when a client wants a very specific color and wants to maintain color consistency across a number of pieces. A good example of this would be in a corporate logo. The Corel logo, for example, is PMS 653. Select the text, and we can either click on the Uniform Color Fill icon in the toolbox here, or a quicker way would be to double-click the Fill icon in the status bar. Next, I'll click on the Palettes tab, and then I can bring up the desired color by typing the PMS number of 180 here and click OK. By double-clicking on the Outline Pen color swatch in the status bar, I can quickly bring up the Outline Pen dialog box. Here I can set the line thickness and color. for my text and click OK. I'm going to add the company name here and insert the TM symbol. I can do this easily by using the Windows character map. For this symbol, I'll hold the Alt key down and type in 0153 on the numeric keypad. I'll now change the color to white. I'll select the four elements, the company name, the product name, image, and the background, and tap the letter C on the keyboard. This will center everything for me. I can now move on to the next element. I'm going to create an object that looks like a seal that I can use to highlight a selling point for the product. I'll select the polygon tool in the toolbox and draw a polygon. Change the color to yellow, and then in the interactive property bar, I'm going to set the number of points to 60. Shift F2 will zoom to the object that I have selected so that we can see this better. Now, by using the Shape tool, I can pull the nodes inward to convert this shape to a 60-pointed star that will look like a seal. Tap the space bar to return to the Pick tool, and I want to make this more of an oval shape. Finally, I'm going to right-click on the object and select Wrap Paragraph Text. I'll explain this later. F4 will zoom me to all objects on the page. The text within the shape is simply going to say Puppy Approved. I'll use Arial Black and set the font size. Once I type the text, I can center it by selecting both objects and tapping the letter C, then E. It will center a line and place it in the middle. I'm now going to bring in the ad copy that was written by my customer. New to CorelDRAW X4 is the capability of importing Word documents. It will not be a problem to bring this file in. File Import or Control-I. When my import dialog box opens, you will notice that I can choose to maintain fonts. 4 says CMYK, and because this file is going to press, we need to print separations, so I will want my text to be CMYK. Next, I want to maintain the table that the customer put into the document. Click OK and place my information. Now that my copy is on the document, I can format it in the way that I want. I'll move the list of ingredients over here for now and work on the table. By left-clicking on the white in the color palette, we'll give the table a white background. As you can see, CorelDRAW X4 does a pretty good job of bringing this information in, and it saves me a lot of time having to retype everything to recreate the table. I'll select the table and adjust the border to 2 points. Next, I'll resize the cells and move it into place. Next, we will manipulate the paragraph text for the list of ingredients. As I mentioned, CorelDRAW X4 has the capability of handling 2 types of text, artistic text and paragraph text. For this type of requirement, we'll be using paragraph text. First thing that I want to do is change the color of the text. I'll left-click and right-click on the white. This will make both the fill and outline white. Remember when we right-clicked on the polygon and select Wrap Paragraph Text? Well, watch as I drag the text next to the polygon. As you can see, the text reflows. This is a great time saver. As I change the font size or font style, it is also reflected. I can tweak the text a bit more using the Shape tool. By grabbing this handle, it will allow me to adjust the text kerning. This is all part of the live text preview in CorelDRAW Graphics Suite X4. Adding the barcode is just as easy. From the Edit menu, I'll select Insert Barcode. The barcode wizard supports 18 different barcode formats, including UPC and ISBN. For this, we'll use the CODA bar. Simply type the number in, click Next, and for this project, I'm going to accept the defaults. Once the barcode has been generated, I'll resize it and move it into place. When sending a file to print, if plates are required, it is important that proper and accurate registration is maintained. In the Print dialog box, on the Prepress tab, we have the ability to add crop and registration marks. We will get to that in a moment. For this project, that's all we need. But in a situation where you may need custom placement or a crop or fold or registration mark, CorelDRAW X4 has the ability to allow you to create them. Here is how it's done. I'll start by drawing a rectangle that I will fill with white. This is where I will place my registration mark and my color swatches. Next, I'll draw an ellipse. If I hold down the Control plus Shift key while drawing, it will create a perfect circle from the center out. I'll make it about 0.25 inch in diameter. Next, with the freehand tool, hold the Control key down and draw a line horizontally about 1/2 inch long. Switch to the Pick tool, and an easy way to do this is tap the spacebar. Now, I can duplicate this line by tapping the plus key on the numeric keypad. The plus key will duplicate an object in place. You can rotate 90 degrees either by using the interactive property bar or click and rotate with the Control key held down. To make sure everything is placed properly, select all objects and tap the letter C on the keyboard, then the letter E. This will align center and even. Next, we want to color the objects with something referred to as a registration color. A registration color is a color value that will print on all plates when printing separations, including spot color plates. To do this, double-click on the outline color in the status bar, and then click the drop-down next to the color and select Other. On the Models tab, select Registration Color. Click OK, then OK again. Group the objects and move them into place. Next, we want to create 5 color swatches, one for each of the CMYK plates and one for the PMS plate. Draw a square 0.25 inch by 0.25 inch. Tap the space bar to select the Pick tool. Now, we're going to make 4 copies. Try this. Drag the square and tap the space bar 3 times while moving. This will create 4 copies. Marquee select the copies and tap the letter L to left align, then hold the Shift key and tap the letter C. This will evenly space the objects vertically. Select the top rectangle and give it a black fill. Shift plus Tab key will select the next object, give it a yellow fill. Shift Tab, click on magenta, and finally Shift Tab, select the cyan color. To fill the last square, select the eyedropper tool and click on the Puppy Chow text. Holding the Shift key down to switch to the eyedropper tool to the paint bucket, fill the last square. Tap the space bar and marquee select the 5 squares and right-click on the X in the color palette to remove the outline. We are now ready for print, so what's next? From this point, a decision has to be made. Are we creating the plates or are we sending to a service bureau? I'll cover both options. To prepare a file to send to the service bureau has been made very easy in CorelDRAW X4. By using the Prepare for Service Bureau option, Prepare for Service Bureau allows the user to automatically gather all required files to bundle up and pass off to the service bureau. From the File menu, select Prepare for Service Bureau. When the wizard comes up, click Next. The wizard will review the file and present a list of fonts. You have the option to include or not. Next presents an option to create a PDF file of your document. This PDF file can be used as a soft copy of a proof for the printer. Next again, this will allow you to choose a location to save the files to. And then next one last time. This collection of files is then sent to the Service Bureau and will provide sufficient information for them to output the job. If we are creating the plates or separations ourselves, we start by going to the File menu and selecting Print. You will see the document being analyzed, followed by the Print dialog box. And with this document, another box notifying you that the paper orientation does not match. We will answer no to this. From the Destination drop-down, I'll select my output device. I'll click on the Properties and select the size of stock that I'll use. For this, I'll use tabloid or 11 by 17. Click OK. Select the Separations tab and click on Print Separations. You will notice that I now have a list of plates that will be printed out. One note here that I'd like to point out is that the angle for my black plate is the same as the Pantone plate. For the printing of plates, we need to make sure that the angle is separated by at least 15 degrees. If we did not change the angle, we would see a moire pattern when the file is printed. If we click on the Pre-Flight tab, you can see that CorelDRAW X4 has already identified this as a potential issue. Back on the Separations tab, I'm going to click on the Advanced button and change my Pantone angle to 90 degrees and click OK. Now one more point here is that the advanced options here are only available if a PostScript device is set as the output device. I cannot access this if I am printing to a non-PostScript printer. Next, I want to add the necessary crop, fold, and registration marks. So I'll click on the Prepress tab and add the ones that I require. Then click Apply. If all we want to do is print a single copy, then we only need to click on the Print. This will create the separations for us. Because of the small size of the label, we can print multiple copies on a single piece of stock. This is what we're going to do here. Click on Print Preview, and in the toolbox on the left, click on the Imposition Layout tool. In the Interactive Property bar, set the pages across down to 4. By clicking on one of the images of the scissors, it will allow me to add a gutter between the images and allow me to properly take into account the bleed that I have added. On the Interactive Property bar, I'll set the gutter size to 0.25 inch. By adding the gutter, you will see here that the crop mark actually indicated where I should cut. This gives me the bleed that I need. Select my pick tool and we're done. The only step left is to print. As you can see, with a bit of knowledge and a little experience, it can be both fun and rewarding to be able to create a package design that you can be pleased with. All of this is possible because of the power behind CorelDRAW Graphics Suite X4.